The 1970s were a wild ride. Motorcycles roared with raw power. But for every legend, there was a flop that left riders cursing. From shaky frames to engines that betrayed, these bikes turned dreams into disasters. Let's dive into the 13 worst motorcycles of the decade, where ambition met agony. 1972 Kawasaki H2 Mach IV. Imagine the thrill of straddling a beast that could hit 125 km/h. Its 748cc two-stroke triple engine screaming like a banshee. The 1972 Kawasaki H2 Mach IV was a monster, pumping out 74 horsepower and 57 lb-ft of torque, enough to make your heart race and your palms sweat. Kawasaki had already shocked the world with the 500cc H1 Mach IV, a bike nicknamed the Widowmaker for its penchant for sending riders to the emergency room. Undaunted, they decided to up the ante, cramming even more power into a frame that seemed to have been designed by someone who'd never seen a road. The H2's frame was a disaster, so flimsy it might as well have been woven from straw. The front forks, fitted with shocks too weak to handle the bike's 420-pound bulk, wobbled under pressure. The brakes? A single front disc and a rear drum that seemed to scoff at the idea of stopping. Worst of all, the rear wheel was positioned so far forward it gave the bike a dangerous rear weight bias, making it prone to flipping backward in a heartbeat. Kawasaki boasted about the H2's top speed, but they didn't mention the torque drop-off above 3,500 RPM that could launch the front wheel skyward in a surprise wheelie, leaving riders to pray they'd stay upright. 1971 Suzuki TM400 Cyclone. It was supposed to be a motocross king, a machine to rival the factory racers of legends like Joel Robert and Roger DeCoster. With a 396cc two-stroke single-cylinder engine churning out 40 horsepower, it promised raw power for just $999. But promises are cheap, and the Cyclone delivered a ride so erratic it became a legend for all the wrong reasons. Its power delivery was like flipping a switch, either off or screaming full bore with no middle ground. The ignition system was a gamble, sparking unpredictably at 3,500 RPM one moment and 5,500 the next, or sometimes just coughing and stalling. Weighing 50 pounds more than the featherlight factory bikes it was meant to emulate, the TM400 was a beast to handle. Its chassis was a nightmare, flexing under load like a diving board, then snapping back with enough force to catapult riders into the dirt. The forks felt like they were borrowed from a child's bicycle, and the rear shocks gave up after 10 minutes, leaving riders bouncing like rag dolls. Imagine the adrenaline of lining up at the gate, the crowd roaring, only to have your bike buck like a bronco, throwing you into the weeds before the first turn. 1974 Suzuki RE5. The rotary dream. That crumbled powered by a high-revving Wankel rotary engine from NSU in Germany. The RE5, short for Rotary Engine Model 5, was a futuristic marvel, a sporty bike that promised to redefine performance. Its sleek frame was built for speed, and early reviews praised its smooth handling and road-hugging grip. For a moment, it seemed like Suzuki had cracked the code to the future of motorcycling. But the dream soured fast. The rotary engine, while innovative, was a ticking time bomb. Without the advanced ceramic apex seals that wouldn't arrive until the 1980s, even a minor seal failure could gut the engine, requiring a full replacement rather than a simple fix. Repairs were a mechanic's nightmare, costly and complex, often leaving owners stranded and broke. Picture the pride of rolling up on a gleaming RE5, only to be humbled by a breakdown that drained your wallet and your patience. 1975. Honda CB500 Ti. Instead of designing a fresh 500cc power plant, engineers stretched the existing 450cc engine, increasing the stroke and swapping roller bearings for cheaper ball bearings. To cut costs further, They lowered the compression ratio to 8.5.1, allowing the bike to sip cheaper gas, a necessity during the 1975 oil crisis. The result? A bike that shook like it was possessed. The CB500T's vibrations were so intense they could loosen bolts, rattle teeth, and turn short rides into endurance tests. Cheap rubber bushings on the handlebars and seat did little to dampen the buzz, leaving riders numb and exhausted. Imagine cruising down a sunlit highway, only to feel like you're riding a jackhammer, your hands tingling and your vision blurred by the relentless shaking. The root of the problem was Honda's refusal to let engineers add a counterbalancer to the crankshaft, a fix that could have saved the CB500T from its grim fate. Instead, it became a symbol of corporate penny pinching, a machine that promised performance but delivered pain. Riders abandoned it, and Honda's reputation took a hit. 1973. Yamaha SC500 with a 498cc air-cooled, reed-valve two-stroke engine and a 4-speed transmission, it promised to dominate the dirt. Its suspension boasted remote reservoir rear shocks and inline axle front forks with 4 inches of travel. Decent for the time. But at 243 pounds, the SC500 was a heavyweight in a world where agility was king. The engine was a tuning nightmare, sputtering and stalling at low RPMs, then unleashing a sudden 40-horsepower burst that could lift the front wheel without warning. The chassis was equally unforgiving, with a front end so light it felt like it was floating, making cornering a gamble. At high speeds, the bike shook violently, its harsh suspension jarring riders' spines. Picture the thrill of tearing across a motocross track, only to have your bike betray you, wheeling unexpectedly or shaking you loose in a corner. Cycle magazine summed it up brutally. Yamaha nailed the small stuff, but botched the big picture. Compared to fragile but nimble European bikes, the SC500 was a clunky disappointment. Yamaha redeemed itself a year later with the revolutionary YZ360 monoshock, but the SC500 remains a symbol of a misstep in their storied history. 1976. Honda CB750A, Honda-matic powered by a 736cc 4-stroke, 4-cylinder engine. It delivered a detuned 47 horsepower to ensure the transmission could cope. With disc brakes, an electric starter, and clear instrumentation, it was packed with forward-thinking features. But the CB750A was a hard sell. Riders craving the raw, hands-on thrill of a manual bike found its automatic setup clunky and uninspiring. At 540 pounds, it felt like a lumbering giant, lacking the sporty snap enthusiasts expected from a Honda. Imagine the excitement of hopping on a shiny new CB750A, only to feel like you're driving a scooter with delusions of grandeur. The Honda-matic's sluggish response dulled the joy of riding, turning open-road dreams into a slog. By 1978, the CB750A was gone, its innovative spirit overshadowed by its lackluster performance. It was a bike ahead of its time, but it failed to capture the hearts of riders who lived for the clutch and throttle. The CB750A's story is one of ambition unmet, a reminder that even Honda's brightest ideas could stall in the face of tradition. 1973 Yamaha TX750. Its 743cc air-cooled parallel twin engine, complete with a 360° crankshaft, pumped out 63 horsepower and 50 lb-ft of torque. Innovations like dual balancers to cut vibration, dry sump lubrication, and front disc brakes with opposed piston calipers made it a technological marvel. Aluminum wheel trims added a touch of flair, and the 5-speed manual transmission promised versatility. But beneath the shine lurked a fatal flaw: reliability. The TX750 overheated like a furnace, guzzled oil, and left riders stranded. Mechanics dreaded working on it, as fixes were often temporary bandages on a bleeding wound. Imagine the pride of rolling out on a sleek TX750, only to be betrayed by a smoking engine on a deserted road. Your dreams of adventure fading with the heat haze. Yamaha scrambled to fix the issues. But by 1974, the TX750 was pulled from most markets, and production ceased entirely by 1975. It was a bike that promised to redefine the twin-cylinder game, but instead became a cautionary tale of engineering hubris. Ducati H2 GT, designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro. It sported sharp, angular lines inspired by automotive trends, a stark contrast to Ducati's classic curves. Its 863cc air-cooled, 90-degree V-twin engine with a desmodromic valve system delivered 57 to 60 horsepower, paired with a 5-speed manual transmission and chain drive. On paper, it was a technological triumph, a bike built for speed and precision. But the 860 GT alienated Ducati's loyal fan base. Its folded paper styling was polarizing, clashing with the brand's heritage. Riders who cherished the soulful curves of earlier models felt betrayed, as if Ducati had traded its heart for a cold, geometric experiment. The bike's handling was decent, but its aesthetics drove sales into the ground. Picture the sting of unveiling your new Ducati, only to hear whispers of, "What is that?" from fellow riders. 1971. Moto Guzzi V7 Sport, its 748cc V-twin engine, mounted transversely across the frame, delivered 70 horsepower, with a 9.8.1 compression ratio, fed by dual 30mm Del Orto carburetors. Clip-on handlebars gave it an aggressive riding stance, and a 5-speed transmission with shaft drive promised smooth power delivery. It was a bike that screamed performance, designed to make riders feel like kings of the road. But the V7 Sport's charisma hid a dark side. Maintenance was a nightmare, with complex systems that baffled even seasoned mechanics. Reliability issues plagued the bike, from finicky electrics to parts that wore out too soon. Imagine the thrill of leaning into a corner, only to be stranded by a sudden breakdown, your cafe racer dreams reduced to a roadside wait for a tow. Moto Guzzi's quality control faltered, and owners paid the price with endless wrenching and frustration. 1972, Kawasaki Z1 900, its 903cc air-cooled, inline-4 engine with double overhead cams, the first of its kind in a mass-produced Japanese bike, delivered a thundering 82 horsepower at 8,500 RPM. With a 5-speed transmission, disc-key feet, brakes, and an electric starter. It was a technological leap, wrapped in Kawasaki's striking 3S styling and a bold 4x4 exhaust. Over 85,000 units were built, a testament to its promise. But early models had a fatal flaw. The frame flexed like a diving board under aggressive riding, making high-speed corners a heart-stopping gamble. Imagine the rush of opening the throttle on a wide-open highway only to feel the bike wobble ominously, threatening to throw you off. The Z1's power was intoxicating, but its handling issues scared even the bravest riders, earning it a reputation as a beautiful but flawed beast. 1973. Laverda 1000, its Jota variant, produced from 1976 to 1981, was the fastest production motorcycle of its time, pumping out 90 horsepower at 7,600 RPM. With a robust duplex cradle frame and Laverda's own cast alloy wheels, it promised power and stability. Riders dreamed of tearing up the road on a machine that looked and sounded like a masterpiece. But at 495 pounds dry, the Laverda 1000 was a beast to handle. Its suspension was harsh, jarring riders on long rides, and its agility suffered under its own weight. Imagine the thrill of unleashing 90 horsepower, only to wrestle with a bike that felt like steering a tank through tight corners. Enthusiasts, expected a sporty masterpiece, but the Laverda's stiff ride and clunky handling left them wanting. Produced until 1988, the Laverda 1000 was a bold experiment that never quite lived up to its potential. Its raw power was undeniable, but its flaws broke the hearts of riders who craved finesse. It was a machine that roared with promise, but stumbled. In execution, a reminder that even the mightiest can fall. 1975, Triumph Trident TU60 with 58 horsepower at 7,250 RPM, front and rear disc brakes, and an electric starter, it was a step forward from the kickstart days. Its overhead valve engine promised smooth power, and its sleek design carried the pride of British engineering. But the T160 was plagued by gremlins. Oil leaks and electrical faults were constant headaches, and new mufflers caused back pressure issues that led to overfueling, choking the engine's performance. Imagine the pride of riding a Triumph, only to be betrayed by a puddle of oil under your bike or a dead electrical system miles from home. Build quality was spotty, with components like the rev counter drive and clutch cable entry prone to failure. By 1976, the T160's short production run ended, its reliability woes sealing its fate. It was a bike that carried the hopes of a nation, only to falter under the weight of its own flaws. For British bike fans, the T160 was a heartbreaking end to an era. A machine that could have been a legend, but instead became a cautionary tale. 1979. Maico 490. Its 410cc air-cooled, two-stroke single-cylinder engine delivered 55 horsepower, paired with a 5-speed gearbox for blistering acceleration. On paper, it was a dream machine, built to carve through tracks with unmatched ferocity. But the Maico 490 was a beast that bit back. Its handling was a nightmare, especially in tight corners, demanding expert skill to keep it upright. Reliability was its Achilles heel. Frequent breakdowns and engine failures left riders stranded mid-race. Picture the adrenaline of charging toward a jump, only to have your bike sputter and die, leaving you to eat dirt in front of a roaring crowd. Maintenance was a constant battle, with parts wearing out faster than a rider's nerves. Produced until 1982, the Maico 490 never found its footing in a market that valued dependability. Its raw power was thrilling, but its flaws made it a legend for all the wrong reasons. Riders who tamed it earned respect, but most walked away, bruised and frustrated. The Maico 490 was the ultimate test of courage and patience in the 1970s motocross world. The 1970s were a crucible for motorcycling, a decade where ambition and innovation collided with reality. These 13 bikes, the Kawasaki H2 Mach IV, Suzuki TM400 Cyclone, Suzuki RE5, Honda CB500T, Yamaha SC500, Honda CB750A, Yamaha TX750, Ducati, 860 GT, Moto Guzzi V7 Sport, Kawasaki Z1 900, Laverda 1000, Triumph Trident T160, and Maico 490 represent the dreams that didn't quite make it. They were machines born from passion, but their flaws left riders with scars, both physical and emotional. Each bike tells a story of a rider's hope, dashed by a wobbling frame, a sputtering engine, or a breakdown miles from home. Yet, there's a strange beauty in their failure. They remind us of a time when manufacturers took risks, when the road was a proving ground for bold ideas. Some of these bikes paved the way for future triumphs, their lessons shaping the machines we ride today. Others are forgotten relics, gathering dust in barns or museums, whispering tales of what could have been. Which of these bikes surprises you the most? Would you dare to fire up a Maico 490 or wrestle a Kawasaki H2 Mach IV down a twisty road? The 1970s may be gone, but their echoes linger in every rev of an engine, every gust of wind on the highway. Subscribe and share your thoughts, and let's keep the spirit of the open road alive.
Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into Hollywood's hidden history.